السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد. Today I'm going to discuss, the topic is illusions and falsehoods of the world. There have been so many illusions and lies and fraud created in this world that a lot of the people are trapped into believing these things as reality. It's something like virtual reality that you see in computers and cinemas, which is not really true, which is not reality, but is accepted as reality. An intense amount of energy and frustration is spent on the chasing of dreams. Literally, we waste our lives away in pursuit of an illusory happiness that is always just on the other side, if only I did this, or if only this. Now here in South Africa alone, 250 billion rands are spent in casinos, in online gambling, in private gambling and so on. That's a staggering amount of money that's been spent by people in the hope they're going to strike it rich. Little do they know that only 3% payback. The casinos or whatever it is, they give you only 3%. So if you put 100 rand, you might get 3 rand back. You lost 97 rands. Now what kind of what kind of a business is that you are doing? Just for the illusion to satisfy your ego? Some people are so addicted to gambling, they know they lose, yet they go on, it's like a drug. While the total debt in this country, that means the amount of money owed by people in this country, is 1.3 billion rand. 1.3 trillion rands. That's a tremendous amount of money that people have borrowed. A lot of people, as you know, today are underwater, they can't pay back. They borrowed it hoping that they're going to get something out of it, and things just go wrong because this system of this Ponzi scheme of financial system, you can't control it. They're controlling it from further away. It's neo-colonialism imposed on our country. You can never become free. There's a verse in Surah Kaf, الَّذِينَ دَالَ سَيَاهُمْ فِي الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا وَهُمْ يَحْسَبُونَ أَنَّهُمْ يُحْسِنُونَ صُنْعًا. Surah Kaf, verse 104. It is they whose labor has gone astray in the pursuit of no more than this world's life, and who nonetheless think that they are doing good work. A lot of people believe that they are doing good work under the illusion of all the evil they do, they think it's good. Yet, we should be able to understand some of these things if we would just for a moment sit silently somewhere away from all the noise. And I'm not talking about the noise of music and all that, I'm talking about even the noise in your own mind, all the thoughts. And just for a moment, if you can sit for a little while, you will see some hidayah will come to you. But then, if you don't keep it up, of course, it's going to disappear. Our relationships have become more centered around money and individual self-interest. You will readily greet a rich person before you would even look at the poor man. Your relationship in family and otherwise are targeted or directed only towards those kind of situations where somebody has something that you can benefit from. If you don't benefit from, you will have nothing to do with that person. It's become so self-centered. In our personal daily dealings, our time and thoughts are taken up by unnatural outside stimuli, like watching TV for hours and hours on end, mass media, reading all this lies and fraud nonsense that is being written in the newspapers, and on top of it, you're paying them 5 rand a day for the newspaper for telling you lies. Relationship with the people. In the socio-economic context, artificial living in modern homes and offices, if you think of all these fancy structures that you have built up, with all the chemicals, paints, and all these things, they are making people sick, and yet they say, oh yeah, our house looks beautiful. All these circumstances shape our perception. However, we might not realize how much our minds and way of viewing the universe have been taken over by this constructed social system. It's an artificial social system that people have constructed, and a lot of people are believing in it. I give you some examples of the false beliefs and illusions that were created by the mass media. In the 1920s, when the cigarette companies wanted to promote their cigarettes to people and to women alike and so on, because women in those days, even in Europe and America, were not really smoking. Especially one company, Lucky Strike, I don't know if you can remember Lucky Strike. They used to advertise with a picture of a doctor saying, cigarettes are good for your health and liberation for majority and for liberation. That means it liberates you. And then they said majority of physicians recommend cigarettes for being good for health. Now you know what cigarette has done to people today. Then there is another commercial these days that you see on television fooling the woman. It's by L'Oreal. It's a very big, what you call a cosmetics company. It advertises cream that sells for maybe 2,000, 2,500 rand, a small bottle of cream. And they want women to buy this, so there comes this fancy actress, very high-class actress, American, and she advertised for that, and then in the end she says, we are worth it. So what they are telling the woman, buy this 2,500 rand jar of cream, and you are worth it. You can do the same, you can achieve the same beauty by applying olive oil or some other natural stuff on your face. Or Gerber foods, you know the Gerber foods, they produce baby foods in little bottles. Their advertisement says, 4 out of 5 pediatricians, now these are children doctors, recommend Gerber baby foods. This artificial food which in bottles is supposed to replace mother's milk. Or Nestle, milk powder good for your babies, it is better than mother's milk. Yes, they used to say that, that's how they used to advertise. And then you've got some false labels, like when the Americans and the Europeans, when they go to war against Muslim countries, they say it's a just war. The priest comes in and the rabbi or whatever it is and the cardinal and pope and says, yes, it's a just war. They justify these wars, killing people, murdering people, and they say it's a just war. Or Patriot missiles, or peacekeeper missiles. How can a missile that kills people can be peacekeeper? Or another falsehood, they say Israel made the deserts bloom, as if there were no Palestinians, as if there were no olive groves, as there were no orange groves, and there was nothing there, there were no people. They made the desert bloom, and a lot of people in the world have started believing this. Even in medicine, they have created all kinds of machines and new kinds of drugs. But yet, today, more people are dying from heart problems, diabetes, cancers, and sometimes even a simple thing like a simple influenza. And they say, yes, we have made advancement in medical technology. By the way, how many people can afford an MRI? The scans cost several thousand rands. From the world population, maybe not more than 2% can afford to go there. And they say that, well, we have created this modern medical wonders. Even a lot of the scientific discoveries are a fraud and they are manipulated. It has come out many times over and over again, some scientific discovery which made big headlines, and then they say, no, well, it was not correct, it was wrong, and so on. It's a fraud. For instance, this whole war against terror, this war against Al-Qaeda, so-called Al-Qaeda, demonizing Muslims, and manipulating people's minds to say these people are terrorists. They show pictures of people praying in the mosque, and then at the same time they show some bomb blast going on somewhere to put into the minds of people, associate terrorism and horror with Muslims. But in America, 18,000 women per year are beaten to death by their husbands and their lovers and their brothers or whatever it is and so on, who are probably on alcohol and drugs. 1 in 4 women in America is beaten up. 18,000 are killed. 1 in 4 is beaten up so severely and so badly abused. And they want to tell us about women's rights? They want to say the Taliban oppressed women? What about they statistics? These statistics are from them. I didn't set it out of the thumb. You can get it yourself anywhere on the internet. Meanwhile, the drones and bombs are killing thousands of women and children in Pakistan, in Afghanistan, in Somalia and other poor countries. But many empires that were built on lies and their mighty rulers have been swept away when people have woken up. Just wake up, just listen to what Islam and the Quran says. Open up your mind and you will get rid of all this illusion. Witness the uprising that took place last year in North Africa. It swept away some of those rulers which the world thought they will never be able to get rid of. They were so powerful and so mighty, and yet they were swept away within days. Zain al-Abidin comes to mind. Then of course this fellow in Egypt, And so you can change. You can get out of the delusion. You can get out of that false belief that they are mighty and powerful. They are not mighty and powerful. There is nothing more powerful than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All the power comes from that one source only. You can't grasp some of these things or see the illusions. Only sometimes when you have reached that higher stage of awareness, awakening, you have become awakened to the realities by, of course, following the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, and opening your mind and eyes, you will then be able to see and get loose from the grip. Then you will have no need for none of these things. You won't depend on anything. You won't depend on your, say, well, I got to go to my business because otherwise I'm going to starve. No, Allah has given rozi for everybody, but we became greedy. We're taking more and more. And that's why if you see the result, 1.3 trillion rands people are in debt to the tune of 1.3 trillion rands because of the greed. Just take a look at the total belief in the fraudulent financial and monetary instruments, the Ponzi schemes. A lot of people get caught in the stock market schemes and in this financial schemes and all this, the famous things like Madoff and all this. But the whole world's financial system, it's a Ponzi scheme. And it is collapsing now. As a result, as you can see in Europe and in America, people are losing their jobs because the banks have gone bankrupt. The countries have gone bankrupt. Spain, Greece, Portugal, they are bankrupt. Even big countries are facing difficulties like Britain and Germany and other countries. Of course, America is facing very serious difficulties. The total debt alone, domestic debt, is like $25 trillion. But if you take the entire world's false money, the false money that has been created, this bits and pieces bytes that you see on computers, it's not real money, it's not gold, it's not silver, it's not your copper and so on. It's false money, is quadrillion dollars. Now quadrillion dollars, if you take the world GDP, total GDP is $50 trillion of all the countries combined together is 50 trillion. So 200 times that amount of money is artificial. Of course now it's collapsing because of all this. That's why the prices of homes were going up. A home that costed 10,000 rands or 50,000 rands shot up to 2 million and 3 million rands. Take, for instance, Dubai. In the morning you bought a house for 100,000 and they paid you 120 in the afternoon. How could that have been? How can that be sustainable? What we increasingly see and feel normally is the need for more money, more and more money. Modern housing, sex, entertainment, drugs, jewelry, family attachment, escapism. Now and then they want to run away to Phuket or to Dubai or somewhere and I want to get away from it. Get away from what? Allah is everywhere. He is there. Stay here. Allah is here. Right next to you there are poor people. Help them. Many of us are drawn to building an identity of social respect of power. Even gangsters have identity. They also have followers, so they have identity. Politicians have identity. A lot of people worship certain politicians, and they're the biggest liars and frauds on the world. Or imams, some imams, he feels that he is the only one that can lead the masses, people. Or rabbi, a priest, or a mufti, a pope, or super consumer. It's all identity things, you know. There are so many false beliefs around. People are being misled by rabbis and Christian priests and muftis and some, I would say, some charlatans and so on, you know, who think that they got all the spiritual answers, and people fall for that, and yet they continue to suffer in the mind mentally. Just in America alone, 70% of the people are taking some kind of a psychotropic drug, some kind of a medical or medicine drug and so on. But the trend is spreading worldwide. Just take a look at amongst our people. They're popping a pill when they get a small headache, they immediately take a painkiller, or even worse, there are other worse drugs, and they become so addicted to it that they can't leave it. They don't believe in the power that Allah can heal them if they will just face towards Allah and ask, you know, for the assistance. I want to mention briefly, I don't know if some of you people have seen this film called The Matrix. That's a typical example of a society that was totally controlled by manipulators, like it is today in Europe, in America, with all this modern technology, the computers, supercomputers, they're watching each and every one of your emails, they're listening into all your conversations, they're spying on satellite and so on, so they brought the society under control. The people in America and Europe are so docile, they have nothing left to rebel. All the trillions of dollars of schemes that they have in food, they've been robbed of. Their pension funds have been emptied by the big corporations and so on, yet they are not able to rebel. They can't even stand up and shout. The only maximum thing they do is go and demonstrate somewhere, show some placards. That's about the extent of the rebellion. And this is what a lot of the world is now getting into, being plugged into this matrix. There's a very nice scene in that movie where the Morpheus, who was the main person who got out of that system, the matrix system, he shows Neo, the guy who also helped get out of the system. He pulled his software plug. You know, the people are today being programmed. They're putting chips into their bodies and so on, so they can program them. And he pulled out his software program and made him to see the reality as it was, and not reality as the virtual reality they were showing him. And then he seen that the world was a dark and dreary place, not all those fancy, beautiful things that they show you in virtual reality. That is what you will awaken to if you get out of this trap of this illusion and the falsehood. Before I finish, I'm just going to give you some numbers as to what the world is doing. Let's just look at the global priorities in money terms. The amount of cosmetics sold in the United States is $8 billion. The amount of ice cream consumed in Europe is $11 billion. Perfumes in Europe and the United States is $12 billion. Pet foods, not human foods, pet foods in the United States is $17 billion. Business entertainment in Japan, $35 billion. Cigarettes sold in Europe, $50 billion. Alcoholic drinks in Europe, $105 billion. Narcotics and drugs, as I mentioned earlier about those drugs, $400 billion. And the worst of all is the military spending, the killing machines. $780 billion is spent on that, killing people. Now look on the other side. Basic education for all is only $6 billion. Water and sanitation for all is $9 billion. Reproductive health for all women is only $12 billion. And basic health and nutrition is $13 billion. Of course everything is going wrong in the world. Of course there is so much greed and so on. I have to end here. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah, the Institute for Islamic Services will be having their year-end graduation for the pre-primary, madrasa and adult literacy classes this Sunday, the 9th of December at the World Memon Foundation Center at 11 a.m. All are welcome to attend.